Yo, what's up? Welcome to another build guide. So today's build is gonna be one of those builds that is only for mapping. Actually, you can boss with this character, but with the investment I made, it is not that good. But I still killed Conquerors and a couple of Guardians, I believe. Maybe they are in the video, but I am not sure. But I don't recommend bossing with this character with the investment I made, because this is actually a very expensive build. Maybe it is expensive on an assassin, I'm not sure. But I didn't want to do that. I just wanted you to play this build as cheap as possible. So that's why I only recommend it for mapping. So this is basically a Herald of Thunder walking simulator build. I'm not sure if this is auto bomber, because I haven't actually played those builds in a while, so I'm not sure if this counts as auto bomber or not. So Herald of Thunder with the rings, storm, secret. Herald of Thunderstorms hit enemies with increased frequency, so this means that you will see more lightnings happening around the place. And also Herald of Thunder also creates a storm when you shock an enemy. So this lets you just proc Herald of Thunder on a boss fight basically. So normally Herald of Thunder requires you to kill a shocked enemy, but with this ring equipped, you can just proc it at a boss fight. So you will have those lightnings happening all the time. So for this build, obviously, you want to link your Herald of Thunder. So basically, it is your main setup. We are using Cane of Kulamak, the new stuff that drops from Katarina. I haven't even seen this drops once. I killed maybe 10 Katarinas this league, so it has a very low drop chance. So this is basically like that what's that, Paradoxica sword. Maybe you are familiar. It is actually a random item. So you just want to buy this with the following stats. I will just list the cheapest one first. That is what I used. After that, I will also mention the best possible combination in my opinion. So the minimum stats that you need: +3 level of socketed support gems. So we are obviously using Empower to boost the Herald of Thunder level. So that means that that +3 will also provide 3 levels to Empower, which means actually 3 levels for our Herald of Thunder. And any stat that has something to do with double damage. So it can either be a default double damage chance or a double damage while focused. I get it with a focused modifier, and also my focus button is on my left mouse button, so I just press it automatically without doing anything. So focus is something that has 12 seconds cooldown and a 4 second duration. So there will be like 8 seconds downtime, but every 12 seconds for 4 seconds we will have more than 70% double damage chance, so that means a lot of DPS. So this is just the 2 cheap stats that you need to play this build. This is what I used. If you have a higher budget, if you just want to min-max this build, your final stat is a lightning damage. Because this is not actually a spell. Herald of Thunder has a spell tag, but the damage is not spell damage. So do not get any spell damage on your gear, on your Cane of Kulamak, alright? Because it doesn't work. So the only stat that works for this build is the lightning damage. That's why this stuff with +3 level, double damage, any kind of double damage, and finally lightning damage is very expensive, because everyone buys this. There are a couple of assassins playing this build on the leaderboard. I'm not sure if this is used on any other kind of build, but yeah, for Herald of Thunder only lightning damage works on this stuff. That's why if you want to min-max this build, you need to spend a lot of money. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I just used the budget version. So other required items: Inpulsa. This is basically to explode monsters, but you will notice that we are actually using elemental focus on our Herald of Thunder. So you will say, how do we shock so we can explode? We are combining Inpulsa with Storm's gift glows. Enemies you kill are shocked. Shock you inflict spread to other enemies within a radius of 15. So combining this with Inpulsa, you can actually explode monsters because they are just shocked when they are dead. So there's a really good synergy. These both items are very cheap in Ultimatum League right now. Do you need a 6-link Inpulsa? By the way, let's just talk about that. Probably 5-link is enough, but 6-link obviously helps. We are going to take a look at the jumps later on. You can just start with the 5-link Inpulsa if you want, but in the end I highly recommend you to get a 6-link, because our Herald of Thunder is not in Inpulsa actually, in Arcane of Kulamak, as we already talked about, but we have other setups as 6 link, so it will help in the future. For helmet, so this is a little important. With the gem setup that I use, Herald of Thunder has 30% reduced reservation is required, but you can absolutely use other gem setups if you want to use another helmet enchant. There's actually also Herald of Thunder damage, maybe you can go and get that. But with the gem setup I have, because those gems have higher mana multiplier, that's why I picked Herald of Thunder has 30% reduced reservation. So this is probably the most expensive piece that I am using because I used Awakener Orb. You already know that Awakener Orb is not that expensive this league, so it is very easy to craft this kind of helmet actually. So you just want a Crusader base helmet with nearby enemies have -9 lightning resist, and also a Warlord helmet with +1 maximum power charges. So here's what I did. I just bought a maximum power charge helmet from someone else because it is very hard to get that with alteration orbs, and also maximum power charges doesn't have any tag, so you cannot even roll it on harvest craft or anything. So you should just buy it from someone else if you want. You can just snipe it because sometimes people just put it for cheaper, but make sure there are not any other kind of influence modes because we want to use Awakener Orb later on. You just want only one influence mode, and that should be the power charge on that Warlord helmet. For the other helmet, you can just buy a helmet with Herald of Thunder enchant. My choice was reduced reservation, as I already explained, but it needs to be at least 85 item levels. After that, you just use a Crusader Exalted Orb. It's like 1.5 Exalt, I believe, and use metallic fossils or just alteration craft. They both work, but because alterations are expensive these days, I highly suggest you to use metallic fossils in a single resonator. Just spam until you get that nearby enemies have -9 lightning resist. Make sure that it is the only influence mode on the item. Just press the Alt button and read if anything else has the Crusader tag. Make sure that the nearby enemies have -9 is the only influence modifier. After that, use Awakener Orb on the maximum power charge helmet because that is the bad helmet, we don't want that. And finally, click the Crusader helmet with the Herald of Thunder enchant on it with the -9 resist on it, and the two helmets will be combined together. So you will have a helmet with both the Herald of Thunder enchant and the two modifiers, +1 power charge, nearby 9 resistance. If you are lucky, you will also get maybe something like life, resist. My helmet doesn't have that much stuff. I only crafted a life. I don't even have any resist. Maybe you will get lucky and get a better base, better outcome. If you want to maybe watch an example about using the Awakener Orb, stuff like that, I have a guide actually, and the link is always in the description. So you can also watch that if you don't know how to use Awakener Orb. For boots, I'm just using a boot to cap my resistances, nothing special at all, very cheap. I highly suggest you to get 80% chance to avoid being stunned if you have killed recently, because we are playing an assassin and he is not stun immune. Since this is also a low budget squishy character, you sometimes die, alright? This is not a tanky build, because assassin builds, most assassin builds are squishy, and this is a low budget build, that's why you need that stun avoidance, alright? It is very important so you don't get stunned and die. That's very important. For amulet, since this is very cheap these days because they added this to the core game, I'm also using this. Badge of the Brotherhood. This is just to be a little tankier and extra DPS while mapping. Increase effect of elusive on you per power charge. Elusive gives a lot of dodge and move speed, that's why the character is very fast. And with that additional dodge, we are a little tankier. And also your maximum power frenzy charges is equal to your maximum power charges. So this means that, for example, if you have 8 power charges, you will have 8 frenzy charges, or if you have 9 power charges, you will have 9 frenzy charges. You understand the idea, but this doesn't actually let you generate frenzy charges. That is why you need to have a way to generate frenzy charges. So I will just show you two possible combinations, two possible examples, let's say. So one is a Storm's Gift gloves. I already showed that. With the implicit frenzy charge on kill. There are lots of results with this. I bought this for like 40 chaos. No one's get this, alright, that modifier, frenzy charge on kill. So if it is cheap, you can just get that. If this is not cheap right now, there's another alternative, and that is a guaranteed way to get this. You just need to anoint your amulet with disciple, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I believe disciple of the slaughter. 8% chance to gain frenzy charge on kill. So while mapping, you will just get those frenzy charges by using the notable or the implicit on the glove. So make sure you get one of those at least, so you can generate those frenzy charges. So your Badge of Brotherhood actually does something. So because this is a budget build for while bossing, if you want to kill maybe something like a Conqueror or a Guardian of Minotaur, whatever, you won't have those frenzy charges because we don't have any on hit frenzy charge generation. That's why you are gonna lose a lot of DPS. That's why I don't recommend you to play this build as a boss killer with this setup, with this low budget investment. If you want a better boss killer, if you want to boss with this character, you need a +2 rare amulet with +1 intelligence gems, I believe, and +1 what is that? Lightning gems, yeah. So your Herald of Thunder will have +2, and you don't have to deal with those frenzy charges. But that is obviously way more expensive, and you also need that lightning damage Kulemak, which is at least 30 exiles. So yeah, the high budget version of this build is very expensive. So we don't want that. If you want to min-max, obviously go for that. Finally, a belt to cap my resists. I always have this kind of belt in my stash because it is very easy to craft. Actually, I also have a guide, and that was the only guide on the whole internet the last time I checked. I'm not sure if it is still, but I made this guide over a year ago. So yeah, maybe more people learned how to craft this. Maybe there are more videos now, I'm not sure. The video is always in the description, go and check that. You can even make some profit on the way because it is a very easy crafting method. And that's pretty much it. Now I'm gonna show you a couple of things in the path of building, and that's gonna be it because this is a very easy build actually. So on the talent tree, because we don't have any Headhunter, I just put only one Headhunter clip at the start of the video. Maybe, I'm not sure, there will be a clip somewhere in the video, alright, a Headhunter clip. So if you have a Headhunter, maybe you can skip inspired learnings, but if you don't have a Headhunter, these are like 1.5 2 Exile each right now, still very cheap for some reason, because ultimatums spawn a lot of rare monsters, ritual encounters, a lot of encounters have a lot of rares, legions. These are pretty much broken again, and still very cheap, very weird. So this is one of those places. You just want at least 4 notables on the radius, but Path of Building doesn't say that because the description is bugged. You just need at least 4 notables. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. These are the ones that I am using, but there are not any other stuff actually, so you must get these 4 notables. If you do something like this, maybe your jewel won't work. So you want to get all these 4 notables, so this will work actually. So this just steals 1 modifier from a rare monster if you have 2 inspired learnings. Again, 1, 2, 3, and 4. By the way, something about this area. This doesn't actually work with Badge of Brotherhood. Maybe you can do something like this, but this only gives maximum mana. I'm not sure if you need this. I just get this because I wanted that frenzy charge duration actually. Because our frenzy charges are equal to our power charges, this doesn't do anything. So I just get this for this extra duration. So again, 4 notables. So we will steal 1 more modifier from rare monsters. That makes 2 modifiers combining 2 inspired learnings. Corrupt Soul, Keystone, thanks to, this is normal pain achievement by the way, thanks to Glorious Vanity Doriani. This is 60 chaos right now, very cheap because it passed 1 mount into the league, I believe, so that's why it is cheap right now. You just want that extra ES, so you will have better survival ability. Without this, we are losing a lot of energy shield. So that is why I highly suggest you to get this. The numbers doesn't matter because they changed these small notes here actually. I actually have a cold resist here, that's why I edited it. So if you have something like that, maybe you can keep your resists easier. You can just trade this jewel with other people or just sell and buy a new one. And check these small ones. You can just right click and edit it on your own on your path of building depending on what you get. You can actually get something like, where's that, resist, energy shield, crit chance, life, dodge. There are lots of usable stuff. So if you are not lazy, maybe you can just straight trade, sell and buy new ones until you get some decent stuff if you want on these small ones that we already allocated. Apart from that, let's take a look at the cluster jewels. So for the large one, I am using an 8 points, obviously. Make sure you get 8. Lightning damage, and you can also get elemental damage. They both work for this build. Again, spell damage doesn't work for this build, so do not get anything with spell damage. So lightning and elemental are your best choices. Prismatic card for easier resist cap. Dorian lesson for some leech. But I'm also using an Adzeris Promise Flasks most of the time. So that also gives me leech. But I wanted that leech all the time. Maybe in case I don't have any flask on me right now. Maybe I don't have flask charges for some reason. Maybe at a boss fight, something like that. That's why you should get at least one Dorian lesson for that life leech all the time. This is only 2 notable, by the way. Very cheap. Because 3 notable ones are most of the time very expensive. We just want a low budget build. For medium, these are a must. You must get these to have increased a lot of DPS, let's say. Without these, this build is basically dead. You just want these 2 combination. Damage while affected by a herald, 4 or 5 points, it doesn't matter. As you can see, this is actually 5 points. The 5th point is gonna be here, so it is not needed at all. You can just do like this. So 4 or 5 points. Herald, cluster, empowered envoy, herald skills deal damage, increase damage, effect of herald buffs, and self-fulfilling prophecy. +1 to crit chance of herald skills. Normally herald skills have 0 crit. If you combine these jewels, they will have a base crit, so you can actually scale crit chance. If I just delete all these, you can see that I am losing 10 crit for each notable. I also have another cluster here. Where's that? So again, boom, 10 crit almost lost. So without these jewels, we don't have any crit at all, so we don't have any DPS at all. So you want these self-fulfilling prophecy plus empowered envoy jewels to boost that crit chance. So make sure you get these as soon as possible, otherwise you cannot play this build because your DPS will just suck. And also we are playing an assassin, so he also provides plus 1.5 crit chance. This is base crit, that's why it gets scaled, so we have more than 50. Actually we have even more crit because the monsters are at full health. You can just basically one shot them. Where's that? Is the enemy on full life? Yes. As you can see, I have actually 100% crit chance for the full HP monsters, so I can just one shot them with more than 8 million damage. Maybe I don't have some procs on me. Maybe I will have something like 6 million, let's say. You can just one shot everything easily. If they are on full life. If they are also on low life, you will also get another bonus. So again, crit chance is kept easily. You don't even need a Battle Fate Flask. Why is that happening, by the way? Ambush and assassinate. More crit chance against enemies are on full life and also low life. Low life is low than 50%. Because low life just got reworked, so this is actually a buff for assassin right now. And also other stuff that are on full life, low life, you can just read the rest, but your crit chance is basically kept if you just follow the same gear. You don't need more crit, that's what I am trying to say. So yeah, this is how I basically played this build. For the jewels, crit multiplier with elemental skills, crit chance maybe, crit multiplier with elemental what's that? Lightning skills also. Those are the 2, or also yeah, global crit multiplier. I'll just maybe list. Let's just do that. I'll just put a list here right now. Global crit multiplier, lightning crit multiplier, elemental crit multiplier. If you have a lower budget, crit chance also nice, and make sure you get life because this build doesn't have that much life. That's why. Again, maybe lightning damage. Pretty much it probably. You don't have much stuff to put because lightning and elemental are the only tags that Herald of Thunder gets benefit from. So other important stuff: Lone Messenger, Keystone. This basically gives you a lot of DPS. This is a must. This is a Calamitous Visions small cluster jewel. This is a unique cluster. It is very cheap. No one plays these kind of builds these days. They are not meta. People play it, but not meta. Maybe the Atlas passives also increase the drop chance, maybe in the Lex Azuris region, I believe. So yeah, maybe that's why these are cheap. You can also get something with Hinder Immune, maybe Maim Immune. If you have the budget, Corrupted Blood Immune. So make sure you get something because this is very cheap. This basically increases the effect of your heralds, so they will deal even more damage. It is very important. And finally, a armor small cluster with only 2 passives with Enduring Composure. This is something that I like to use. You gain 1 endurance charge every second if you have been hit recently. So especially while doing ultimatums, you will get hit for sure. So you can get those 4 endurance charges because I also have a maximum 1 here to make my inspired learning work. 4 endurance charges going on me. Also popping that with Immortal Call. So let's just take a look at the gems real fast and let's finish the video. Immortal Call, cast when damage taken, so I can pop those charges, even more mitigation. I'm also using a Frost Wall and Spell Cascade. I am also using a Quartz Flask sometimes. So I am actually phasing, so I can go through that Frost Wall. So Frost Wall actually saves you sometimes, even especially on ultimatum fights. So this is a combination that I like to use. If you don't want this, just dump this because this is actually annoying sometimes. But if you are playing solo, because you can phase with Withering Step, because you don't have any buttons to press, you just walk, alright? You can just press Withering Step and this basically gives you phasing, so you can go through that wall actually. But the monsters will get stuck in the frost walls, so it is actually good for survival ability. So you can use this setup or dump these two and use something else here if you want. You can also use a Quartz Flask again for that phasing and additional dodge, so that also works. So this is a good combination that I like to use on these kind of squishy characters. So just press your Withering Step whenever it is possible if you want for faster move speed to get that elusive as soon as possible, and also phasing because you don't need to press anything at all in this build. Just run, pop your flasks and that's it. But once you enter a new map, you just want to use a Stormbrand once, so your Herald of Thunder starts proccing. Let's take a look at Herald of Thunder setup. Herald of Thunder Empower to boost that level. Elemental Focus because we don't need to shock. The glow is actually shocking on its own, as we already explained. Added lightning damage for additional DPS obviously. So because we want some lesser multipliers, Power Charge on Crit actually is good, so maybe you can play with that. If you want to use another maybe Helmet Enchant, but you need to figure it out, alright. You need to figure your mana reservation. So maybe you don't need that reservation if you want to use different setup. Something like this. Maybe I'm not really sure. No, this is 140 multiplier. So yeah, this is the setup I used. Energy Leech and Awaken Lightning Pan. But you can maybe use something else, just check here. Power Charge on Crit probably is good and also has a lower multiplier. Hypothermia if you are shocking, but you need to use another cluster jewel I believe. So I cannot say much about that because the enemy must be chilled, otherwise it won't even work. If you want to proc inspiration charges from somewhere else like a Stormbrand, you can also do that I believe. I'm not sure if Herald of Thunder procs inspiration charges, so I cannot say anything about this. So the only thing that I can recommend you is Power Charge on Crit Support Gem. This basically gives you more more damage per power charge, so you can actually use this if you want. If you don't want maybe Energy Leech, so maybe you can do something like this. So yeah, there are a couple of examples, but Energy Leech provides more DPS in the end, in my opinion. So this is the setup that I use. Finally, Body Armor setup. This is why you need a 6 link later on, but a 5 link is enough to get you started. So cast when damage taken, because whenever your lightning hit enemies, you will also get hit thanks to Storm Secret. This is actually a downside of this build. That's what makes this build a little squishy sometimes, because you basically deal damage to yourself actually. Take 250 lightning damage when Herald of Thunder hits an enemy, but this will obviously get lowered from your resistances, so you won't get hit by 250 actually. But if you hit a lot of monsters sometimes at once, you will notice that you will lose your energy shield very fast. So that's why you need a good energy shield pool if you want to be tankier, and that is why also a Doriani with Corrupted Soul is necessary, in my opinion. So your cast when damage taken just procs on its own actually, because you are hitting yourself. Conductivity Curse, Wave of Conviction for that exposure, lightning exposure. Innervate for that additional damage, because if you shock an enemy with these skills, it is gonna be a Wave of Conviction obviously. You will get that added lightning damage, so that will boost your DPS. As you can see, if you disable this, we lose some DPS. And finally, on boss fights, I'm also using a Storm Brand. This is actually leveled, I forgot to edit this. Make sure you level your Storm Brand, so your Storm Brand can deal a little damage, so you can just proc that shock easier. If you do something like this, maybe level 1, your Storm Brand cannot shock because it doesn't deal any damage with level 1 obviously. So that's why you cannot shock bosses, so you need a 20 level. If you want to kill maybe bosses later on, you can just do something like this. Edit lightning maybe. Swift Brand. Maybe something like this for boss fights. But you don't need this Storm Brand setup while mapping actually, that is why I played with something like this. But if you want to kill maybe Conquerors and Cirrus in the end, if you may make more investment, unlike I did, because I wanted to keep this build cheaper, that is when you will actually need a decent 4-link Storm Brand. Otherwise you cannot shock those big bosses because your damage won't be enough on this Storm Brand setup, because it doesn't have anything actually, it only has some innervate. That's why you need something like this, maybe even something else, maybe this is even wrong. Yeah, just check some good stuff here. But this is a good setup actually, you can just do something like this. So you can shock those big bosses, but I haven't used this again as I'm telling you right now. You don't need this for mapping. You can maybe just dump this Frost Wall setup and make a room for a 4-link Storm Brand in the end if you want to kill bosses. And finally, maybe Pantheons. Lunaris is good for mapping on these kind of characters. Movement speed for each nearby enemy. Avoid projectiles, dodge, attack, spell. Very good for this kind of build. And also Aberrat, it is good to protect your energy shield on Burning Ground maps and also Harbinger farming. Because with 2 Inspired Learnings and eventually maybe you have a higher budget, you can even use Headhunter obviously in this build. It is so much fun, you can do that later on. Or maybe you have a Headhunter ready and you are looking for a Headhunter build, so this is a perfect build for you. Because farming Harbingers in Waldo's Rest is so much fun with this build, so you can also do that. That's pretty much it. So thanks for watching, don't forget to like this video and also subscribe. Check my other guides if you want a boss killer build. I have a lot of builds, so check that all my builds video if you want to check my other builds. I already listed all my builds and also their budgets. Everything is in that video, so you should check that video if you want more builds. And I will see you later.